We just celebrated Thanksgiving, and there's something else we need to be thankful for. The Vatican has come out and said no, once again, to the Germans on the question of women's ordination and the church's teaching on same sex acts. And so that's what we're going to review today. This is breaking news. We're just now finding out about it on November 24th. But turns out the Vatican actually made this known to the German bishops over a month ago, October 23rd. Yeah. We're just now hearing about it a month later. But yes, October 23rd is when this was done. And so, again, people have been asking, well, hey, what is Pope Francis doing about the Germans? Well, there you go. In fact, he's been doing this for over a month, it would seem. And so, coupling this with his recent letter to four German theologians that we just reviewed a few days ago, this is incredibly exciting news and very, very productive. And by the way, spoiler alert, it's not just a letter that we're finding out about. The bishops in Germany are getting called into the principal's office. And so they are going to be addressed by multiple congregations for the doctrine of the faith, for the liturgy, and a few others. We're going to take a look at that. The Pope is going to be dealing with them with several congregations, reminding them what they can and can't do, what they can and can't teach, what they can and can't have in the liturgy. It's great. And so this is just more than just writing a letter and using words. Now we're starting to put this into practice, calling them into the principal's office and doing something about this. So I certainly welcome this development. Let me share my screen so that you can follow along. We're going to take a look at the letter itself, and then we're also going to look at a couple sources that report on the matter. So we're going to look at a primary source, we're going to read the letter, and some secondary sources who are telling us the scoop about the matter. So let's first go to Rorati, because Rorati actually has an English translation of the letter. So we're going to take a look at the letter itself. But let's take a look at their introduction first, where they comment on it. Their article title is Secretary of State Parolin lays down the law for German church, priesthood for men only, Catholic teaching on homosexuality non-negotiable. Cardinal Secretary of State Pietro Parolin informs the German bishops that the ordination of priests reserved for men and the church's teaching on homosexuality are non-negotiable. The German bishops have received a clear message from the Cardinal Secretary of State Pietro Parolin that the Vatican is not considering negotiating the letter Ordinatio Sacerdotalis, in which Pope John Paul II confirmed the exclusion of women from ordination to the priesthood in 1994, or the church's teaching on homosexuality in upcoming talks with a delegation of German bishops. In a letter addressed to the Secretary General of the German bishops, dated October 22nd. So, about over a month ago now. Which was made available to this editorial team, Parolin. Again, I know some people pronounce it differently, so bear with me if you don't like my pronunciation. Parolin specifies the procedure and content of a German-Roman dialogue round on the synodal way. In July, several dicastery heads met with representatives of the German bishops for the first time to discuss the synodal way. In October, the German participants in the global synod, Batzing, Ginn, Meyer, Oster, and Overbeck, and the Secretary General of the German Bishops' Conference, Giles, held a further meeting with several heads of dicasteries. These talks are to be continued in the upcoming year. And so this isn't the end. Watch this. The heads of the dicasteries for the doctrine of the faith. Okay, so now we're going to have the head over doctrine, also the head for the promotion of Christian unity, for the bishops, for divine worship, and the discipline of the sacraments, and for legislative texts, want to meet representatives of the German bishops in January April and June 2024 and discuss what is unchangeable in the doctrine and discipline of the church and what can be changed. This is epic. So, in other words, these guys are getting called into the principal's office, and the Pope is basically saying, okay, now you need to meet with those who are over doctrine, those who are over the promotion of Christian unity, those who are over the bishops, those who are over the sacraments, those who are over the legislative text, and you're going to be meeting with us on, several for several months here. You're getting called into the principal's office, and we're going to remind you of what you can and can't do, of what you can and can't teach. This is epic. I love it. And you know what? I honestly think that after this, I don't see the bishops continuing to push the envelope. If they do, wow, uh, I could totally see Pope Francis at that point just saying, you know what, you guys, gave you plenty of chances. You got to go. But I don't think they're going to push it after this point. The topics to be discussed include ecclesiology, anthropology, morality, and liturgy, as well as the relevant text of the synodal way. We document below the note on October 23rd, which represents a proposal of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, which the heads of the above-mentioned dicasteries have approved. The note is available to all German diocesan bishops, and to this editorial team informs the basis for the above-mentioned discussions in the Vatican. So again, what you're about to read was approved by multiple Roman congregations. And this is going to be the basis for the upcoming discussions as they get called into the principal's office and reminded on what they can and cannot do. So next time somebody asks you, hey, what is the Pope doing about the Germans? Send them to this. Here's the note. Let's take a look at it together. Note from the Secretariat of State dated October 23rd, 2023. Again, over a month ago. We're just now finding out about it, though. In view of the course of the German synodal journey so far, it must be borne in mind that a universal journey, synodal journey, is currently taking place, convened by the Holy Father. It is therefore necessary to respect this path of the universal church and to avoid the impression that parallel initiatives are underway that are indifferent to the endeavor to journey together. In other words, don't go and just do your own thing. You need to be in union with the universal church. In this regard, it is worth taking up some of the Holy Father's words to the people of God in Germany. Brothers and sisters, let us care for one another. Let us watch out for the temptation of the father of lies. That's the devil, by the way. Of the father of lies and division, the master of schism. Ooh, there's that word. Who in driving the search for an apparent good or an answer to a particular situation ends up dismembering the body of the holy and faithful people of God. With respect for the concerns of some members of the church in Germany, we widen the tent to continue the dialogue that has already begun in the hope that it will be characterized by respect and fraternal affection, taking into account the issues presented in the documents that summarize the proposals. However, it must be made clear from the outset that these issues are of varying relevance and cannot all be placed on the same level. Some of them have aspects that cannot be put up for discussion, but also aspects that can be subjected to joint in-depth discussion. With regard to others, however, there is no possibility of arriving at a different assessment, such as the following: priestly ordination reserved to men. In other words, this is a non-negotiable. And now it quotes this: although the doctrine of priestly ordination reserved to men only has been both preserved by the constant and comprehensive tradition of the church and taught with consistency by the magisterium and the documents of the recent past, it is nevertheless considered debatable in our times in various places, or by the decision of the church not to admit women to this ordination is ascribed merely disciplinary significance, so that all doubt may be removed concerning this important matter, which concerns the divine constitution of the church itself. I declare, this is John Paul II, I declare, by virtue of my office of strengthening the brethren, that the church has no authority whatsoever to ordain women to the priesthood, and that all the faithful of the church must definitively abide by this decision. Yeah, this is infallible. And so, again, the Vatican is reminding the German bishops, hey, guys, This thing over here by John Paul II, yeah, that's an infallible teaching. So, yeah, stop doing this. It continues. Pope Francis has explicitly reaffirmed St. John Paul II's statement several times. For example, with regard to the ordination of women to the priesthood to the church, has spoken, and she says, no. The church has spoken, and she says, no. St. John Paul II said this, but in a definitive way. The door is closed. You heard that correctly. That is Pope Francis. So for anybody who is telling you Pope Francis is in favor of women's ordination, Pope Francis is explicitly saying no. This is definitively closed. The door is closed. With regard to the ordination of women in the Catholic Church, St. John Paul II had spoken the last clear word, and that remains, that is valid. It is not a dogmatic definition, although it must be accepted by all. No one may publicly contradict it. The reason why it says it's not a dogmatic definition is because it's not a primary object of infallibility. It is what's called a secondary object of infallibility, which is, again, infallible. So it's infallible Catholic doctrine. Dogma would be something directly and immediately revealed by God. This is a question of something that is a secondary object of infallibility. That's why it says it's not a dogmatic definition. But just because it's not a dogmatic definition doesn't mean it's not infallibly excluded. It has been infallibly excluded. Okay. We are faced with a binding decision that is also subject to the juridical power of the Pope, with precise disciplinary consequences, which are set on the norms on offenses reserved to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Article 5. The Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith also reserves the more serious offense of the attempted consecration of a woman. If the person who attempts to confer sacred ordination or the woman who attempts to receive sacred ordination are believers in Christ subject to the Code of Canon Law, they are liable to excommunication as a penal offense, the lifting of which is reserved to the Apostolic See, according to Canon 1379. If, however, the person who seeks to confer holy orders or the woman who seeks to receive holy orders are members of the Christian faithful subject to the Code of Canon Law for the Eastern churches, they are to be punished with a major excommunication, the lifting of which is reserved to the Apostolic See. In other words, anybody who attempts to ordain a woman is subject to these penalties. And again, the penalty is, according to Pope Francis in his update to the Code of Canon Law, an automatic excommunication. And so, in other words, the Vatican is reminding the Germans, hey, you Germans are talking about, ordaining women. Just remember that if you attempt to do this, excommunication is the penalty. So they're just straight up warning them, no, don't go through with this. Although today this issue must be considered closed throughout the church, the Holy Father has formulated a reflection that helps to understand the meaning of this teaching and invites us to find other ways that favor greater participation of women. So, in other words, just because women can't be ordained doesn't mean that women can't have some other kind of participation. Claiming the legitimate rights of women on the basis of the firm conviction that men and women have equal dignity poses profound questions for the church which challenge her and which cannot be avoided specifically or superficially. Gosh, I butchered that sentence. Let's try it again. Claiming the legitimate rights of women on the basis of the firm conviction that men and women have equal dignity poses profound questions for the church, which challenge her and which cannot be avoided superficially. That's what I get for reading and looking at the chat at the same time. The priesthood reserved for men as a sign of Christ, the bridegroom, who gives himself in the Eucharist, is a question that is not open to discussion, but it can give rise to particular conflicts if sacramental authority is confused too much with power. We must not forget that when we speak of priestly authority, we are at the level of function and not at the level of dignity and holiness. So in other words, just because women can't be ordained doesn't mean that they're somehow less holy or have less dignity than men. No, that is not what this is. The ministerial priesthood is one of the means that Jesus uses to serve his people But the great dignity comes from baptism, which is accessible to all. The assimilation of the priest to Christ the head, that is, as the main source of grace, does not imply an elevation that places him at the head of all the rest. In the church, functions do not establish the superiority of some over others. In fact, one woman, Mary, is more important than all the bishops. Ain't that the truth? Even if the function of the ministerial priesthood is understood as hierarchical, it must be borne in mind that it is entirely intended for the holiness of the members of Christ. Its pivotal point is not its power understood as dominion, but its authority to administer the sacrament of the Eucharist. This is the basis of its authority, which is always a service to the people. This is a great challenge for pastors and theologians who could help to better recognize what this entails with regard to the possible role of women in various areas of the church where important decisions are made. Another issue on which a local church has no possibility of taking a different view concerns homosexual acts. Now we're shifting over from women's ordination to the question of homosexual acts. And the reason why is because the Germans have been saying, you know what? Due to advancements in psychology and things like that, we know better than people in the past. And so this is no longer considered a sin. This is just a natural part of human life. And so Rome comes back and says, nope, nope. For even if we recognize that from a subjective point of view, there may be various factors that call us not to judge people, this in no way changes the evaluation of the objective morality of these acts. Because you know what some people are going to say? They're going to try to say, well, mitigating circumstances, lack of knowledge. Sure, a person may have mitigating circumstances, a lack of knowledge when it comes to any kind of sin, but that doesn't take away from the objective morality of these acts, which is that it is gravely sinful. It's still grave matter. The constant teaching of the church emphasizes that the objective moral evaluation of sexual relations between persons of the same sex is precisely and certainly established. Another question, which is not under discussion here, is the degree of subjective moral imputability of such relationships in each individual case. So in other words, we're not trying to discuss right now how much a particular person has a particular amount of culpability and knowledge. That's subjective to each individual. But the act itself is gravely immoral. And the church's decision on this and its moral evaluation is precisely and certainly established by the constant teaching of the church, which doesn't change based on sociology or what some people say today in psychology. It doesn't change. The constant teaching of the church is still the same. And thus, the church's moral evaluation objectively of this act is still established. You can't change it. So, in other words, yeah, stop talking about how, well, things are different now because we understand things better with the advancement of science. Yeah, no. The Vatican is just saying, no, just stop it. The constant teaching of the church has evaluated it as such. So, not only are we getting this letter to the bishops explicitly telling them, knock it off, no more, and threatening them with excommunication for women's ordination, which again, Pope Francis already put that into canon law. In addition to that, they are going to be meeting with the heads of multiple congregations in Rome, reminding them of what they can and can't do. I love it. More of this. We need more of it. Let's take a look at what CNA has also said about this. They offer some commentary. So let's take a look at it. The Vatican has informed the German bishops in writing that the ordination of women and changes in the church's teaching on homosexuality cannot be subjects of discussion in the upcoming meetings with delegates of the German Synodal Way in Rome. The letter, dated October 23rd, also reminded the bishops of potentially disciplinary consequences for anyone defying the teaching of the church. Written by Cardinal Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, and addressed to the Secretary General of the German Bishops' Conference, Giles. The letter was shared with all German diocesan bishops. The document's authenticity was verified by CNA's German counterpart with the German Bishops' Conference on Friday. The latest in a growing list of Vatican interventions regarding the German synodal way, the letter was published in full on November, it says 25, by the newspaper Tagespost. German bishops and representatives of the Roman Curia met in the Vatican in July for discussions about the German synodal way. These talks will continue in January, April, and July 2024. They are expected to cover ecclesiology, which is certainly something the German bishops need to brush up on, because, again, some of these acts are materially schismatic. Anthropology, morality, oh boy, we definitely need to brush up on that one. And liturgy and the text of the synodal way. The Vatican's letter reminded the German bishops of the Synod on Synodality underway in Rome. Considering the course of the German synodal way so far, one must first realize that a universal synodal way is currently taking place, convened by the Holy Father. The letter emphasized that it was therefore necessary to respect this path of the universal church and to avoid the impression that parallel initiatives are underway that are indifferent to the effort to journey together. In light of the German synodal way resolving to push for the ordination of women, the letter reminded the German bishops that Pope Francis has repeatedly and expressly reaffirmed what St. John Paul II wrote in Ordinatio Sacerdotalis about the church having no authority whatsoever to confer priestly ordination on women. While quoting Pope Francis on the importance of recognizing the role and dignity of women, given a woman, Mary, is more important than the bishops, as the Pope said in Evangelii Gaudium, the letter also warned of disciplinary consequences for those who contravene doctrine, including potential excommunication for attempting to ordain a woman. Regarding the church's teaching on homosexual acts, Parolin's letter to the German bishop said this was another issue on which a local church has no possibility of taking a different view. Damn. The letter elaborated, for even if one recognized that from a subjective point of view, there may be various factors that call on us not to judge people, this in no way changes the evaluation of the objective morality of these acts. The Vatican's note also referenced Pope Francis's 2019 letter to Catholics in Germany. In it, the Pope cautioned against the great sin of worldliness and of the anti-evangelical worldly spirit, which I loved that. If you go and read it, it's great. Pope Francis is saying to the Germans, yeah, we need to be careful here because I think we're going the way of worldliness, and we can't do that. We need to go the way of Jesus Christ, not the way of the world. In January, Pope Francis was more explicit, decrying the German synodal way as elitist and neither helpful nor serious. I'll add to this commentary, I love the part where he said to the German bishops, we already have one Protestant church in Germany. We don't need another. That's probably my most favorite line from Pope Francis. More recently, in a letter dated November 10th, the Pope again expressed deep concerns about the German synodal way. He warned that steps being taken by this local church segment threaten to diverge from the universal church's path, especially the Germans' push to establish a permanent synodal council, a mix of laity and bishops to govern the Catholic Church in Germany, which you'll recall, Pope Francis told them, you cannot do this, and has issued multiple warnings about that matter. Instead, Pope Francis suggested an alternative approach for the church in Germany. I love this. Emphasizing the need for prayer, penance, and adoration. In other words, yeah, German bishops, and instead of doing all this other stuff you've been doing, how about you just focus on prayer, penance, and adoration? That would be nice. I think that would be helpful. I agree with the Pope. German reactions to this latest intervention from Rome will show just how much the Synodal Ways organizers have taken the papal appeals to heart. Yeah, I'd say so. I look forward to seeing how they're going to respond. And I also look forward to finding out what the results are from these upcoming meetings that they're going to be having with the multiple congregations. Again, as I say, kind of getting called into the principal's office and reminded, you can't do all this. Stop doing that. I honestly think at that point they're going to have to dial it back. They're just going to have to back up. They're going to back off. In my opinion, I think that's what the German bishops will do. I sure hope I'm not wrong about this, because if they continue to push it, Pope Francis is threatening excommunication. So it's not going to end well for the Germans, and they know it's not going to end well for them. So I think they know it's not in their best interest to keep pushing this issue. So, yeah, wow, how contrary is what we just read to the narrative that we hear about Pope Francis. And also how apropos is it that we find out, as a retort to those who say, but what about the German bishops? Well, evidently, this has been going on for over a month. It's just that the world didn't know about it. But Pope Francis has definitely been taking action against the German bishops for quite a while now. And I wholeheartedly welcome this. And I want to see more of it all around, not just with the German bishops, but, other problematic figures in the church. But, I got to give it to Pope Francis. I mean, goodness, he's been coming out swinging lately, especially with Fernandez. He's been coming out swinging. He came out against Freemasonry not long ago. He certainly has been addressing some issues that, I think all of us have kind of felt like we needed to hear more from the Holy Father about, and he's doing it. Hey, maybe our prayers are working. We've all been praying for the Pope, been praying for him, fasting for him. Yeah, maybe it's working. Maybe we need to keep it up, right? I certainly want to see more of this, but share this with other people, because unfortunately, we still hear, especially in the secular news, but also in Catholic media, in many outlets, we still hear this narrative about Pope Francis that doesn't really account for the facts that we're witnessing here. So please help share this with people, because a lot of people just are not aware. I continue to get it in my comment section. Well, Pope Francis is in favor of women's ordination. Pope Francis said yes to gay blessings. Pope Francis worshipped the Pachamama idol. I still get so many things that have just been shown to be not true, but I still continue to get those messages. And the reason why is those people haven't seen all this other stuff, but they're constantly exposed to people who are telling them the lie and the propaganda. So let's help them find out the truth by sharing this kind of stuff on our social media. If you see a person, saying the wrong thing or saying something about Pope Francis that isn't true, charitably, in love, tell them the truth. Oh, another one that's mentioned in the chat. Yeah, Pope Francis banned the title Vicar of Christ. I still hear that all the time. Or that he didn't answer the Amor Laetitia Dubia. It's like all of this has been disproven, but unfortunately the narrative and the propaganda is louder than the promotion of the truth. And so we need to become more vocal in promoting the truth, because I'll tell you, the dissenters are very, very vocal in presenting the lie. So we need to step it up. We also need to step it up in praying for these people, fasting for them, doing penance for them, acts of reparation for them. So yeah, much more can be done. So let's go ahead and do that. Hey, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment, help me grow this channel so I can reach more people. The more you do that, the more the algorithm kicks in, and YouTube will share this with other people so that they can become aware of it. There's a lot of people who have never heard of Reason and Theology and any of this material. So help me get this material out to them. And of course, if you want to support me financially, because this is how I not only support my family, but this is really what keeps the lights on here is your support. If you want me to continue to do these videos that you appreciate and enjoy, as well as others, do consider supporting me. Patreon.com/Reason and Theology, or the GoFundMe or PayPal links there in the show notes. I'd greatly appreciate the help. Okay, y'all, get on your social media, start sharing this with people so that they can hear the truth. This is good news, and we need to be thankful for it. Okay, we'll see you later. God bless. Are you a Catholic thinking about converting to Eastern Orthodoxy? Or are you a Protestant discerning whether or not to become Catholic or Eastern Orthodox? If so, I have the book just for you. It's called Answering Orthodoxy, and engages all of the arguments that Eastern Orthodox use against the Catholic Church. I respond to all of them. I show that they are in error, and in fact, they're inconsistent, because the things that Orthodox are objecting to are in fact found in their own tradition. So the fullness of the faith can only be found in the Catholic Church. Check out the book right now at shop.catholic.com for your copy today. Hey everybody, just wanted to tell you about my new free ebook, Church Chaos: Biblical Insights for Confused Catholics. If you are a confused Catholic and you're thinking about leaving the Catholic Church, or you're thinking about converting to the church, but you see that there's a crisis in the church and you're just unsure, this is the book for you. Again, it is free. Just simply go to reasonandtheology.com. You'll see a pop-up that comes up on your screen. Just simply click on it and you'll put in your email, and it will provide you the free PDF ebook right then and there. Please check it out if you're confused about the situation in the Catholic Church today. reasonandtheology.com. Are you confused about how Catholic teaching authority works? With encyclicals, papal bulls, councils, and many other things, it's easy to get confused on what is authoritative and what is not. Fortunately, at MaximusInstitute.com, I have prepared a course explaining the magisterium from A to Z. Visit the website and check out the course, Understanding the Magisterium, for more information. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, office, or any kind of property anywhere in the world, you're going to want to call Real Estate for Life, and they're going to connect you with a Catholic agent. Now, that agent will donate a portion of their commission upon sale, and Real Estate for Life will donate 75% of that gift to a pro-life organization at no cost to you. Call Real Estate for Life at 1-877-LIFE-US1 or text them 248-431-1440. If you care about the pro-life cause, call them now.